Hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to the show where we find the weirdest topics to cover and we get really weird with it. People making all kinds of crazy claims on the internet, and I consider it my duty to point it out when it's, absolute nonsense. So, today is no different. Today we are looking at this popular theory that's been going around here lately. I shouldn't say popular. It's fringy, but it's been around for years. But recently, there's been a lot of talk about it. So, what we're talking about is that the fact that this idea that the Denisovans were giants for some reason. So we're going to dive right into that. But before I do, can I just say thank you so much, Deep Arcs. I really, really appreciate that. You are a rock star. $49.99 super chat. Love. Thank you so much. That was not necessary, but deeply appreciated. All right, so what is this theory? Here's the thing. I got a couple options for us here, and I don't know if I can handle a full hour video, but what I want to point out here, the first thing, is this Zohar ancient history guy, right? And they do all sorts of videos about Denisovan DNA and ancient, but what I was watching was this guy giving this presentation, right? Talking about how Denisovans domesticated horses, and listen to this.
Important about Homo hybridensis is that when their bones have been found in South Africa, they are regularly or routinely, as it says here, over 7 feet tall. And this comes from routinely, as it says here.
No, Homo heidelbergensis was not routinely over 7 foot tall. What? What's this paper? Okay, so it's Lee Berger, Our Story, Human Ancestor Fossil, Professor Lee Berger, University of Witwatersrand. One of the most interesting things that the fossil record reveals is that we went through a period of extreme giantism. These were people routinely over 7 feet tall. They were huge. This was before we turned into modern humans of today. Let me see. Try to see if I can find the paper. That might help if I spell. No, it's not Berger, it's Berger. I know the guy. This isn't even spelled right. Is that not how he spells his name? It's Berger. This doesn't even have his name spelled right. And you're trying to convince me this is a paper that he wrote? Or something that he cited? You didn't even spell his name right. I'm sitting here thinking I'm spelling it wrong. You make me feel like I'm dumb because you don't know what you're doing. Paleontologist Lee Berger. Right there. Anyway. But this video is too long and nonsensical. But yeah, he makes all kinds of wild claims like that humans. Maybe I can find it in the transcript. No, I'll switch over to the other video because this one's too long. I found a shorter one from this more charismatic gentleman who kind of looks like Colin Farrell. So I'm here for it. He's called the Cosmic Busker. We'll look at his page at the end.
Welcome to the Cosmic Busker. My name is Bobby Cody. In this video, I want to take a look.
I missed your chat. Did I miss your chat, Kristen? Just keep your hands off Hassan. Oh, is that for you? I don't know what chat I missed. If you dropped a super chat, I'll definitely read it. But regardless, I don't mean to miss anybody's chat. If you at Hive Psi, I mean you can at Bree. Oh, woo! There you go. Is that what you're talking about? Girl, thank you so much. Gifted 5 memberships that went to James Nordoff, Jamie M. West, Sydney Raptor, Velvet, and David Larman. You go, girl. You go, girl. I love my chat. You guys are so awesome. Busker, I think it is. Like, busking something I used to do. Which, like, go play music in public spaces. Mostly I just go, like, sit in public and practice. And I just put my hat down if, like, next to me and people want to give me money while I'm practicing. That's fine. Used to do that outside the Hannibal Regional Hospital. You know, they had a little, like, park area. Show them toes. You're going to get me demonetized. I'm actually... I'm wearing my sexy ass leopard print Crocs right now. So that is as sexy as I get. I haven't seen Sydney Raptor in a while either. Let's get this busky guy and see what he has to say. The Cosmic Busker.
My name is Bobby Cody. In this video, I want to take a look at some recent archaeological discoveries. And the fact that it actually, some of these discoveries are actually spoken about in the Bible. I want to read from a portion of Genesis. This comes from the King James Version of the Bible. I'll also put it up there in the corner real quick so you can take a look at it. But it's King James Version of the Bible, Genesis 6-4.
You got to start with the KJV. You got to get that. It's like mainline that gay king from Enlightenment era. Well, no, pre-Enlightenment era England. The famous witch hunting king. Of course, you gotta cite that witch hunting king's scribes, right? In their version of the Bible, which turns beasts in the wilderness into dragons and such, turns it into epic fantasy.
There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which are of old.
Genesis 6:4 would be just a good band name too. It's about it's basically a verse about women taking angel dong and having giant babies. But who can turn down angel dong? Hey, Patty's here.
Men of renown. Now, there have been different translations of this. I've seen translations where it says Nephilim as well. It appears that the same giants or Nephilim may also be the Anakai of the Bible. The Bible also references Anakai.
Are you sure that mean an Anunnaki? Anakai. I don't know what that is. Somebody, if anybody has a definition of that that's different than him maybe saying Anunnaki weird. Anybody knows what else he might be talking about?
From what I've seen in different interpretations I've read, in all cases, these were very, very large individuals.
And I'm not shaming him if I hadn't read the word. If I hadn't heard someone else say Anunnaki, I might read it as Anakai too, or Anukai, something like that.
Now, the question becomes, who were these individuals? Is this actually true, or is this just
No, it's not true. It's folklore.
some type of a fantasy in the Bible? Much of the Bible, which scholars, scientific scholars, have been wont to discard with, has turned out to be true.
Anukai is a singular Anunnaki. Okay. Bark is worse than its bite. Okay. The Nephilim had several names in the Bible. A Nookie. I did it all for the Nookie, so you can take that cookie and shove it up your.
And in this case, we have archaeological discoveries which actually prove that there were giants in the past.
Do we
And I
though?
want to take a look at that. This
Woo, 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 woo. Hold on, I gotta do the wheel. I really like this one. Come on. It's a little slow.
new discovery, and it's very recent in the past few years, is a new type of hominid or human. They've been termed the Denisovans. So I want to take a look at a couple articles on the Denisovans, and we'll see that...
I did. I'm wrecked this morning, Patty. That's why I look like I just got up, climbed out of bed and threw clothes on, because I literally did. I went out, drank, and danced. I broke my heel. Yeah, soaked our feet in the pool. Had a good night.
These may, in fact, be the giants of the Bible, or at least their descendants may be the giants of the Bible. They're mixed descendants.
Or
Because the Denisovans, this other giant hominid, certainly had the capacity to breed with humans, it appears. We'll talk about that.
because they were humans. Anything within the genus Homo is human, right? Where it gets murkier is where you move to a level above that, where you're talking about hominini? No, hominini is just apes. Hold on. Hominoid? Yeah, we get to hominoids. Because you start to get into Australopithecines and Paranthropus and things like that. The area, it gets a little bit of a gray area. Anything before Homo habilis, the handyman. Anything before that, it's like, is this a human or not? But we're pretty confident we can put the line at least that anything within the genus Homo could be considered human. Yeah. Whereas Homo sapiens. Or Homo sapiens sapiens, more specifically, designates our specific species and subspecies, the only extant species of the genus Homo. But, so Denisovans are either going to be, they're probably going to be either, once we get it pinned down, it's either going to be, because the Dragon Man skull, they've decided that's evidence of Denisovans. And the Dragon Man skull is pretty robust, but I digress. So that was Homo longi, right? And then, but that may become the binomial nomenclature for, that may be the binomial nomenclature for Denisovans in the future. Or they may decide that they're a subspecies of humans, subspecies of humans. There I go saying it too. A subspecies of Homo sapiens, which would make them Homo sapiens longi or Homo sapiens Denisovan, depending on how they decide to name them. Must be subspecies since we could breed with Neanderthals, probably also Denisovans. Yeah, I mean, some people will use that as the measuring stick, right? If you can produce viable offspring, but there's a gray area where sometimes that you can produce viable offspring and sometimes you can't, or you might be able to produce a viable offspring with the population in the south, but not the population in the north. That kind of stuff does come up in genetics, where compatibility gets a little weird on the fringes. So it's hard to say. There's no defining between one species and another. Species aren't real, first of all. That's the main thing that we need to understand about all this too, is that species aren't real. Species are circles that we drew around the known groupings of organisms and said this is a group that are all related to each other, right? But yeah, like mules are sterile mostly, but there are other hybrids that aren't sterile. So, I mean, a good example is the genus Felis, right? The genus Felis is just what cats fall into, right? They're a descendant from the African wildcat, a specific species, but they are interfertile with almost every other species in the genus, from what you could definitely say is an independent species of its own, like a serval, right? Like the big tall stilt cats, that's how we make the hybrids, the savanna cats that are like giant. And savanna cat or domestic cats and servals are completely different species, right? But they're interfertile. So genetics is weird, especially when you get into domesticated species like cats and dogs and humans, because we are domestic species. We have domesticated ourselves, but we are domestic primates, right? Domestic terrestrial cursorial primates too, which makes us really unique. But you all didn't show up here to hear me rant about genetic drift and stuff, but it does need to be understood that Denisovans would have been humans by any standard. If you would have met one, you would have said that's a person. You wouldn't have said that's an animal, that's an ape. You wouldn't have said that. You would have said that's a person. And that same thing with Neanderthals. If you would have met one, if you would have ran into one, like walking down the street, you wouldn't say, oh, there's an ape coming at me. You would say, oh, there's a person walking by me, right? You wouldn't, they might be an odd looking person, but you're going to recognize them as a person.
Which is fascinating, and it changes our entire history of our species. Human history just completely changes based on all this stuff, and we're just starting to get a handle on what our ancient past was like. So I want to cut right now to an article on Denisovans. We'll go through a couple articles, look at some photographs as well of some of the...
Oh, another example that's good that I got to point out here when it comes to extinct species compared to modern species. We can check the genes and see how closely things are related that are alive, but fossil species is a bigger problem. And a good example of that is big cats, because for the most part, there are other ways to make the determination, but for the most part, we can't tell the difference between like a lion and a tiger in the fossil record. There are species that they'll argue, this was a lion, no, this was a tiger, because we can't be for sure which lineage it is if it's fossilized, because we don't have genetics for it. So there's like, if you look at something like, the Tyrannosaurus, for instance, there's people that talk about dividing that into 3 species, or 2 species or whatever, because of variations within the genome. Obviously, within the way that the phenotype expresses itself within the species, it's diverse across its range, right? So is that a lion-tiger situation? I mean, if we were alive then, would we have said, oh, this is definitely a different species than that? Because they were filling different ecological niches and looked different and had different physiological characteristics that developed from birth, that did, epigenetic stuff, stripes, spots, a mane of feathers, whatever.
Fossils of the Denisovans and how they compare to humans. and you'll see that this is really, really fascinating stuff. It just changes completely the history of humanity, and everything that you learned in school is probably going to have to be relearned. So let's get this article right now.
You're going to make me relearn it, Daddy?
Okay, this article is from sciencemag.org. It's written by Ann Gibbons on March 29, 2019. Link will be provided below in the description. Subheadline reads, our mysterious cousins, the Denisovans, may have mated with modern humans as recently as 15,000 years ago. The elusive Denisovans, the extinct cousins of Neanderthals, are known from only the scraps of bone they left in Siberia's Denisova cave in Russia, and the genetic legacy they bequeathed to the living people across Asia.
So, yeah,
New
he's like
study-
acting like this is like new, but the Denisovans have been around for about a decade or more now. Like our understandings of them as a species. So for a long time we only had teeth, right, and some tools and things like that. But now, because we have genetic evidence now, and we were able to study some of the remains that we have from areas of Eastern Asia, we actually know, we are sure we have shouldn't say we sure, we are it's because it's never a guarantee, but like it looks like the Dragon Man is a full-blown Denisovan. So that's their skull.
Of that legacy in people from New Guinea now suggests that, far from being a single group, these mysterious humans were so diverse that their populations were as distantly related to each other as they were to Neanderthals. In another...
And if you listen to the way that people say Neanderthals, you can kind of get an idea of their education level on the subject. Does that mean?
startling suggestion, the study implies one of those groups may have survived and encountered modern humans as recently as 15,000 to 30,000 years ago, tens of thousands of years later than researchers had thought.
Doom, doom, doom.
Researchers already knew that living people from a vast area spanning the Philippines and New Guinea to China and Tibet have inherited 3 to 5% of their DNA from Denisovans.
I don't know what's going on with this mic. It cuts out like every couple of minutes.
The leading scenario has suggested that as modern humans swept out of Africa, they first encountered Neanderthals and mated with them.
Neanderthals.
Hence, all people in Europe and Asia now have 1 to 3% of their DNA.
Yep, including me. I'm part Neanderthal. It's probably where I get my white skin from.
From Neanderthals. The ancestors of Asians then encountered Denisovans 50,000 years ago or so and acquired 3 to 5%.
Because my Neanderthal ancestors needed to absorb more of that solar radiation up in cold climates of northern Europe and northern Asia.
Of their DNA from them. The finding of 2 Denisovan lineages in Southeast Asia adds to results reported in Cell last year by Sharon Browning of the University of Washington in Seattle and her colleagues. They had suggested that New Guineans had a separate source of Denisovan DNA than people in
I'm starting to get a little bit of a headache.
Asia, suggesting at least 2 mixing events.
So what we have here in this article is 2 different mixing events where these Denisovans, this other species...
I suspect the pale skin from Neanderthal DNA too. Yay, Neanderthal. Pale bitches. Unite. I'm from Switzerland. We're as close as you can get to Neanderthal. Hard to tell the difference. I suspect, yeah. Does that make Denisovans Neander shorts? Denisovans are giants. They're Nephilim. They're huge.
of human. interbred with humans on 2 separate occasions, and Asians have DNA descended from these interbreeding events. In addition, mentioned here in the article as well, Neanderthals also interbred with humans.
I could be a descendant of Cain too. I've been known to raise Cain a time or two.
Both Asians and Europeans have Neanderthal
Hey, PC.
DNA
Good morning.
as well. What we have here is Homo sapiens are a hybrid species. We carry DNA from different interbreeding events with different hominids.
That's not wrong. Only like fringy hybrid though. I think most species would be like hybrid on the fringes, right?
One thing I'd just like to mention as well, it hasn't been identified who yet, but Africans as well, they've actually identified what's termed, I forget the proper term for it, but DNA in Africans that is...
Yeah, I think that the Homo naledi is what they were proposing, but...
not in any other Homo sapiens, and which they are certain is from now unidentified.
Right? Ember says every species is a hybrid species. We're, what, like 12% ERVs, right? Which is, yeah, you have, we even have pieces of DNA from other groups that viruses have implanted into our genomes. So, absolutely, Ember. We're all hybrids. We're all monsters.
Ancient hominid. So Africans as well, it appears, are a hybrid. Homo sapiens are a hybrid species. One of the reasons we have such different characteristics, different skin color, different hair, different, various aspects, characteristics of our persons, is because we're a hybrid species. So now I want to take a look at...
all species of hybrids, just like Ember said. That's a good way to look at it. Yes, buy me coffee, please.
the giant aspect of this. We've already...
Buy me coffee works a lot faster than doing a super chat or anything in here. Just throwing that out there. I think it's, it gets around to me quicker, and I get more of it.
It's shown that there was interbreeding, but giants. Let's take a look at this.
Hold on. Apparently, I have 3% Neanderthal DNA. I don't hold much water in those types of at-home deals, but cool to think about. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what my Neanderthal DNA does for me. Gives me this nose probably, so I can breathe better in colder climates, because I'm always stuffy and drippy down here where it's warmer.
Article's headline real quick. I'm only going to go to the headline, because the headline...
Of course, you got to go to the headline, because that'll tell the whole story. Why read the article when the headline explains everything?
Doesn't really... the article doesn't go into depth in any way, shape, or form about the headline. So I'm going to show you the headline, and then we're just going to cut to a photo. So let's go to the headline real quick on this article.
This article is from the smithsonianmag.org. I'll provide a link down below in the description so you can look at it yourself. As you can see, the headline reads, DNA from a huge tooth confirms a new ancient cousin.
Now, despite that headline, Larry, huge tooth, goes into no real detail about what that means.
It's a huge tooth. The Denisovans had big chompers. They were likely eating a much rougher diet for probably a few million years before they crossed back and started interbreeding with humans again, with Homo sapiens again. So, yeah, they left Africa a long time before our ancestors did, and they spent a lot of time on the frigid steppes, living a life of sustenance on roughage and a lot of uncooked, unprepared food. So they had bigger, more robust teeth. We used to have bigger, more robust teeth too. That's why we have these problems with our wisdom teeth, because our jaws, through evolution, our jaws have gotten smaller from between developing language and preparing and cooking our food, softening our food for our palate, right? So we don't have those big jaws to hold all those big teeth, but our teeth, no one informed the teeth, so they just keep growing. They keep growing those wisdom teeth and in the back to push up, and our jaw can't hold them anymore. So that's why you got to get them pulled half the time. Anyway,
That tooth is so huge. So I want to cut real quick over to a look at that Denisovan tooth and compared to the normal human tooth, our own teeth. And this
yeah, PC's way better programmed than Bugbot. Bugbot is always dropping the ball. That's my fault, though. I mean, I programmed Bugbot, so PC's better at this than I am. But my birthday is around the corner. 2 days, actually. My Monday is my birthday. Nothing punctuates 2025 quite like having a birthday on a Monday, I gotta say.
size. And you can get a good idea of how much bigger that tooth is in comparison to modern humans' teeth. Let's take a look at that picture right now.
On the left here, you see the modern human's tooth, or a Homo sapiens tooth. On the right, we have the Denisovan tooth, or molar.
Okay.
To my eye, it may not be twice as high, but the general mass, Denisovan looks about twice the mass.
Yeah, it almost like tooth of two different related species can help be diagnostic of which one's which because of different diets and variable environmental factors.
So as you can see, the size of the teeth is just, compared to human teeth, it's just very, very large.
Wait till you see a Paranthropus's tooth. Them suckers had big old grinding teeth. They're almost like a gorilla's tooth.
Now, some might argue, well, it's just the teeth. They just had really big teeth. It wasn't just the teeth. We'll take a look and cut over to Wikipedia real quick. That Wikipedia talks about the finger bone that was found and what they say about the finger bone. Let's take a look real quick and I'll come right back.
Okay.
The Wikipedia page on Denisovans reads, "The single finger bone is unusually broad and robust, well outside the variations seen in modern people."
So, like, what? Again, environment comes into play. These people lived in a rougher, more harsh conditions than modern people. We are, honestly, we like to call ourselves Homo sapiens. We should be Homo gracchalis is what we should be. We'd be Homo gracchalis, and then Denisovans could be Homo robustus. Right, something like that. Because we are the gracile, we are the skinny little frail. We are the elves, if you will, of our respective fantasy world with all the different species of humans. We were the elves. And they had hobbits, Homo florensis. I have to say it slow because if I don't say it slow, I try to put the N in way early. So I have to say florensis. I have to say Flores first. And you had Neanderthals, which would have been the dwarves, right? Neanderthals would have been the dwarves of the fantasy world, and then the Denisovans would be the low men, and then I guess modern Homo sapiens would be the high men, which would be descendant from elves and men. But yeah, so you get kind of that idea. But we're the only survivors. So everybody else their bones look a little off to us. It's like, oh, it's outside the normal range for a human. It's because that range is for modern humans, which they say right here, modern people. which also indicates that ancient people had more robust bones as well.
As you can see, it wasn't just a case of large teeth, everything else is normal size. The size of the finger was well outside the variation found in normal people, well outside.
In modern people, not normal people. What's normal?
So the finger bone was extremely large too, which means the fingers were extremely large. Once you take in the teeth and the fingers, you can just expand that out. In order for the teeth to be so large, it would have been
Can you just expand it out? Is that how we do? Is that how we do science?
a larger skull, much more
You science in this, guys.
powerful jaws in order to be able to handle those large teeth, those large molars. Fingers so large as well, then it would have to be in large muscles.
Notice that they're talking about these things being more robust, not necessarily giant, right? Like, robust means, yeah, it could be slightly longer, but more the what did you want to say? Thickness, more density, more girth. They were that's heavier, stronger bones. Doesn't necessarily mean they were giant bones. Even Denisovans are estimated to be just slightly shorter than modern humans. So they were smaller than us. Yeah. I don't know if I feel like dropping my Cash App. Yeah. I don't know. Good morning, right-handed Seth.
Whole entire body would have had to have been correspondingly larger. With the teeth, as you can see, we're looking at, I guesstimate, about twice the mass. I think you can safely assume that Denisovans were probably about twice the mass of humans as well.
Why would you say that? Why would you just assume that?
Oh, you're probably talking 500 pounds, maybe even. Perhaps twice as large. 10
You just
feet.
where are you getting this from? You're just pulling this out of your keister there, busker.
12 feet, maybe even correspondingly bigger, 15, 20 feet. I believe
15 to 20 feet. Mm-hmm. Even so, give it. To put this into perspective, elephants, like African elephants, at their shoulder, are only 13 feet tall. Giraffes linger at the maximum ends right around 20 feet. So, the bipedal posture, and I'm not saying it's impossible, is not a great source for giantism in general. Like, if you look at people who, even athletes who were huge, like Andre the Giant, who was all mentioned in the chat earlier, suffered like health problems. They weren't they didn't have the super strength that this guy seems to imply or anything like that. Like Andre the Giant couldn't lift Princess Buttercup in The Princess Bride. They had to help him. He wore like braces and stuff there at the end. Robert Wadlow, the tallest man in the world, walked with a cane for almost all of his life and suffered health problems nonstop. So the upright bipedal posture is not a good build for giantism, because you have to pump blood all the way up to the top.
that there is information in the Bible that they translate as these giants being 16 to 20 feet. I may be wrong about that. I'm doing this off the top of my head. But there was something else very interesting
We can tell you're doing this off the top of your head, bud.
found when they found these Denisovan fossils. They didn't just find fossils of these creatures. They
Of these people.
found some of their creations too, jewelry. And let's take a look at what an article has to say about that, and we'll also take a look at a photo of it.
They found an old Denisovan cock ring. Robust is an adaptable word. Hard to prove it wrong when you claim it. Yeah.
Let's cut that right now.
This article is from the Siberian Times and is dated August 2nd, 2017. Is this stunning bracelet made by Paleolithic man for his favorite woman really 70,000 years old?
Yes. According to most.
Startling new scientific evidence is to be reviewed by
Well, I think it was like 60, like 67 or something. Yeah, basically.
international experts, which, if true, would transform our knowledge of the skills and sophistication of early man. It is already known as the oldest stone bracelet in the world, believed to have been made not by ancient Homo sapiens, but the extinct Denisovan species of early humans, and previously dated as being between 40,000 and 50,000 years old. New findings suggest it could be 65 to 70,000 years old, long before ancient people were...
Why'd you cut out this rest of this? So the bracelet was found in 2008 in so-called stratum 11 of the world-famous Denisova cave in the Altai region of Siberia. New findings suggest it could be 65 to 70,000 years old.
believed to be capable of making such remarkable objects. The bracelet is stunning. In bright sunlight, it reflects the sun rays. At night by the fire, it casts a deep shade of green. Said Professor Anatoly Derevyanko.
It's really cool, yeah. Let me see if I can pull a picture of it up. Because it is beautiful. It's a beautiful piece. Yeah, we'll look at this. There we go. Hold on, I gotta not have this full screen, or it won't let me pull it over. So there we go. Look at that. That's gorgeous. It's like this. What is it made out of? I'm gonna pull. The Denisovan bracelet. The bracelet was found. What's it made out of, though? It's made from green chlorite and features a drill hole, a polished surface, and design suggests it was worn regularly. The drilling technique used was previously thought to have been invented much later. The bracelet is dated approximately 40,000 years. So they've pulled that date back a little bit from what this paper he was citing says. But as you can tell by just looking at it, that it's...
Welcome to the Cosmic Busker.
Oh.
My name is Bobby Cody.
Stop, Bobby Cody.
The Institute's former director. It is unlikely it was used as an everyday jewelry piece. I believe this beautiful and very fragile bracelet was worn only for some exceptional moments, he said. What made the discovery especially...
My man made me something like that. I'd be wearing it all the time. I'd be like, look, he drilled this holes in here for me and everything. My guy loves me. This is a beautiful green piece of jewelry. I'd be wearing it every damn day.
Striking was that the manufacturing technology is more common to a much later period, such as the Neolithic era. Indeed, it is not clear yet how the Denisovans could have made the bracelet with the skills that they had.
Well, apparently we're going to have to rethink the skills that these Denisovans had. There's this mistaken assumption that the further back we go, the more primitive we
Why is that a
find
mistaken
people.
assumption?
In fact, the Great Pyramid, Teotihuacan, Baalbek in Lebanon. I'll talk about those in coming videos. But these are all ancient structures that we could not create today, or we would have a very, very difficult time creating them. And as some scholars have said, why would we go to such outrageous and hard to do lengths to create these types of structures?
There were artisans in ancient cultures too. Artistic people have always been around. people who like to make things pretty. You can look into again, you're looking at something pre-Homo sapiens here, but like there are Neanderthal cave paintings, right? We know the artists have been part of our species and part of our populations for as long as we've had populations with the ability to study and culture to study.
The Great Pyramid and Baalbek represent. Baalbek is in Lebanon. I'll talk about that in later videos. These Denisovans were much more sophisticated than we can even possibly realize. Not only that, but we've seen they were much, much bigger. They were giants, probably the giants that the Bible speaks of.
Probably the giants of the Bible. Probably. These were probably biblical giants, guys. Just based on the evidence. They're probably from the Bible. Probably.
And they mated with humans, again, just as the Bible speaks of. They also mated with Neanderthals. So, now...
I also mated with Neanderthals. Does that make me a giant?
See, I put a photo from that Siberian Times article of the bracelet up in the corner so you could take a look at it.
So pretty.
There are much more...
I need a Denisovan daddy to make me some bracelets.
And pictures and drawings.
Hey, I bet we could estimate the circumference of the bracelet and see if it was sized to be put on a giant. Maybe it was a ring. Maybe this is a giant ring, and she was just
bracelet as well. In the Siberian Times article, I included that in the description down below, so I suggest you take a look and read more about it.
Oh, that hits me right in the feels there, Sumame.
Along with all of the articles that I have referenced, and another article that talks about how one of the bones, finger bones, that they looked at, and they did a DNA analysis of, the individual was part Neanderthal, part Denisovan.
Yeah.
So not only were the Denisovans mating with us, and not only were the Neanderthals mating with us, but the Denisovans and the Neanderthals were mating as well.
It was hot. This is big, sweaty. Oh, you had Neanderthal here. You had Denisovan there. You had a Homo floresiensis down here. Yeah, Homo habilis was being the pivot man. Meanwhile, Australopithecus was over in the cuck chair eating a pickle because they weren't invited.
This mistaken assumption that I started this little clip out with, that ancient man was primitive, and that Neanderthal was primitive.
Well, we keep learning more and more about them and more about what they do and how they lived, and decide that they're less primitive than we thought, or that things happen at different times than originally expected. What do you call a caveman that always gets lost? Homo neanderthalensis. Meander.
I believe nothing could be further from the truth. I think it's highly likely Neanderthal were more intelligent than we were, and much more sophisticated than we have ever given them credit.
Yeah. See, Neanderthals actually lived in floating sky castles with anti-magnetism technology. The reason we find their bones is because it was part of their burial ritual, was to cast the bones down into a cave. And so they didn't actually live in the caves or anything or do any of that stuff. They lived in floating castles because they were so much more advanced.
We'll talk about this in future videos, but thanks for watching. Click on those links down below. Do a little research on the Denisovans. It's very fast.
Smoke rises from the body during meditation. What? Yeah, so this was, what kind of stuff, other stuff does he put on his channel? Got some UFO stuff. Yeah. All right, so his most recent video was that, the smoke rises from the body during meditation. Got, it's a psyop. What? UFO message. Lots of planes, morphine drones. Look at this, UFO crisscross. A lot of UFO stuff here. That seems to be our guys' bread and butter. A lot of UFO stuff. But we will have more UFO stuff to come too if you're into UFO stuff. As a matter of fact, no, I can't do that right now. All right. Well, anyway, this is the kind of stuff he covers. And I hope that kind of gives you a bit of a perspective of what we're dealing with. Now, we could have went through and listened to Homie's lecture here and looked at all his slides about giant walls, Siberian supergiants, about 50,000-year-old horse DNA found in Denisova cave. Did extinct human species ride them or hunt them? We didn't ride them. They're not even. These types of horses are not even really rideable. It'd be like trying to ride a zebra. They're actually closer related to zebras too. It would be more accurate to call them Asian zebras than anything. But I thought this guy was boring as fuck, though. Like, listening to him talk. Maybe I'm wrong.
Call it. That's it. That's all we've got. But the most important thing, and by the way, they've all been found in the Denisova cave, because that's where they've been looking for it. That's not the fact that they haven't found it elsewhere. It's just that tests have not been done yet. Yeah, so you get kind of the gist about what I'm talking about with the guy. I mean, he's not bad, but I feel like the other guy had charisma that was lacking here. But yeah, so the Denisovans. What do you think? Were they giants, or were they just another species of human with somewhat robust teeth and robust bones to help them survive in a harsh environment during the Paleolithic, pre-Paleolithic, I guess they would be. Yeah. If you have any disagreement with that, put it downstairs. Put it down in the comments. Let me know. Let me know what the problem is. And please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time.